All right, good morning, brothers and sisters. We are in Proverbs. I don't know if I stated this before, but Solomon wrote Proverbs. Solomon never saw war. King Solomon was a man of peace. And when he was approached by God in a dream, God asked him, "What do you want?" And he said, "Give me wisdom. I want wisdom to lead your people, wisdom to behave wisely." As a very young child king, he did not know how to lead the people out and in from the gates. And he needed wisdom to do so because his father was a mighty man of war, and he had, King David was his father, and he had big shoes to fill. So he thought in his mind. Proverbs was written about 1000 BC, and there was over 3,000 Proverbs that were written by Solomon. There was no one more wise than him before or after, it is stated. When you think of Confucius and Gandhi and all these other philosophers who speak their wisdom, the root of their wisdom is from the Proverbs of Solomon. They've taken it and kind of like music, you know what I'm saying? You got remixes, you know what I'm saying? You got like a song today from, whoever the new rappers are, and they got it from a rapper in the 90s, and the rappers from the 90s got it from like somebody in the 70s, and someone in the 70s got it from somebody in the 50s. They're all remixes. And as I sit here and share in these Proverbs of Solomon, you got to take in consideration, Solomon speaks from experience, not only in the spirit, but experience, hence wisdom, knowledge and experience. He had hands-on experience and knowledge of these things, and then God gave him the wisdom, all the answers to all problems that were on the earth. And because of that, his kingdom was very fruitful. There was apes and animals from all over the world that were being brought to him, spices from all over the world being brought to him, gold and precious stones from all over the world, slaves from everywhere were brought to him. And when you sit here and think about these Proverbs that Solomon speaks of, Solomon, there's two men in the Bible that dabbled in divination, kind of witchcraft, all right? Joseph was one of them, and Solomon. And I'm not going to get too much into that. I'm trying to keep it as basic as possible, but you can go very deep on this. And as long as you have the intellect and understanding, and God gives you the desire to read upon these things, unless God gives it to you, don't reach for it, okay? But Solomon spoke about adultery often, fools often, and the downfall of pride. Solomon didn't have a couple of wives. Solomon had 700 wives and 300 concubines, 1,000 women that he laid with. This man had lots of experience with adulterous women and their ways, And as I read here in chapter 5, the title of this chapter is The Peril of Adultery. And as we get into adultery, what happens here is God equates adultery, marriage, to your spouse. He equates it to Israel's marriage to God, the commitment, Israel's faithfulness to God, like a spouse's faithfulness to each other. And as we read in chapter 5, I'm going to give you a recap because there's so much in it. He starts off with saying, "My son, pay attention to my wisdom. Lend your ear to my understanding." Solomon wasn't speaking lightly to his son like, "Hey, you know what? I got some words for you." He's like, "Hey, fool, all your moms be tripping. All your moms, all you baby mamas are acting up." And let me give you some insight. And remember, these women that he had were not just women of Israel. They were women from other nations. And God said 3 things in Leviticus: do not multiply horses, do not multiply money, and do not multiply women. Reason being is because in Genesis, the pride of life, the lust of the flesh, and the lust of the eyes, I believe it was. And as you multiply these things, you got to remember that each woman brings in her ways. There's a saying in Mexico, it's translated in English, it says, every mind is its own world. When you bring a woman from the background that is not of Christianity, a woman who is a Buddhist into your life, you're unequally yoked. This is why you're supposed to be equally yoked. If you bring a Buddhist spouse into your life, they're going to try to convince you of their religious ways. And after a while, they peck and peck and peck and peck. And you're going to be like, "Oh my God, they don't shut up." And like, "Fine, we'll go to your temple. Fine, we'll sacrifice babies to your demons or gods, or we'll do the beads, bro. We'll repent and let's go talk to a priest." And eventually, when people don't shut up, they just run you down. They tear you down. It's just like, Stop. Solomon had 1,000 women. Just, just so when he shares these things to his sons, pay attention to my wisdom, fool. He's saying, kids, look at these white hairs, man. I look like I'm 80 and I'm only 15. It's just like he didn't age well. I'm just assuming. Lend your ear to my understanding, he says. I'm speaking from experience. I'm speaking from out of wisdom, the things I've seen, heard, touched, tasted, and felt. It's just, he says this. For the lips of the immoral woman drip honey, and her mouth is smoother than oil. He's like, man, see that woman over there? She better, Let me tell you, she's She got some words. Her words are enticing. Her words will convince you. If your eyes are not on God, if your eyes are not on the Father, and they wander, then guess what? You're in trouble. If you don't discipline your eyes, your mind's gonna run, and so will your body. He goes, you know what? He goes, her words are they drip honey, they're smoother than oil, but in the end, they're as bitter as wormwood, sharp as a two-edged sword. He says her ways are unstable. She has these issues. She uses her body as a tool to get what she wants. Nowhere in the Bible does it say that a man of God, woman of God should use their flesh to get spiritual fruit. Nowhere in the Bible does it say you use your body to get ahead in life. As a matter of fact, he says in Romans 12:1 to offer your body as a living sacrifice, holy and pleasing unto him. Surrender this body to God, and let him do as he sees fit for you. Not use your body to get what you want, to get a promotion, to get that man or that woman, to get ahead. No. It's God who gives the increase. He says she's unstable in her ways, man. Then he goes on to say, when you lay with a woman like that, she has kids. They use fountain as a metaphor. He's like, man, if you go out there and you seek and you give your seed to the people and your fountain spread abroad. He goes, not only are you going to pay child support, fool, you're going to work to pay for the kids that you're going to be working and laboring every day for the kids that you have with all these immoral women, all these baby mamas 1 through 12. You're going to work hard to provide for them. When yet, he says in the end, he goes, why should your fountain be dispersed abroad? Why should your seed, and they're talking about semen, your kids, why should you have children everywhere? And why should you be laboring all day to cover for the mistake you made by laying with these women or laying with these men? He's like, as a matter of fact, he goes, here's what you should do. He goes, let your fountain be blessed and rejoice with the wife of your youth or the husband of your youth. As a loving doe and graceful doe, let her breast satisfy you at all times. Okay, obviously he's talking about a guy here that, let her breast. And I don't need to have this graphic love romance novel, Jesus, you know what I'm saying? But he's saying, enjoy her, be enraptured by her love. Her and her alone. This is why he says in the beginning, pay attention to my wisdom. Lend your ear to my understanding. He's like, dude, I know your mama, your mama, your mama, your mama, your mama, your mama. He's like, I know them. Because if I would have just kept one mama, just one mama, things would have been different. So he understands. In my opinion, I as I read through Proverbs, I do hear the wisdom of Solomon, but also sometimes I get the sense that there's also remorse in him, because as he shares certain proverbs, you can tell that he learned from experience what he should not have done, or he's seen it with his own eyes within the people of Israel, and it grieved him and broke his heart. And as he's sharing this insight with people, what to do or not to do, I mean, as I read this now, as a man of God, a single man of God now, after all these years, a sober man of God, a man who desires to be filled with the Spirit daily. As I read these words now, I understand more about marriage, about purity, about wisdom, about immoral women, and Yeah, yeah, brothers and sisters. I mean, if you know, you know. And if you don't, well, now you know. You know, get into the Word. Allow the Lord to teach you, to guide you, to guard you, to cover you, to protect you, to carry you. Let's move forward, though. He says here in the last couple of verses, he goes, "Why should you, my son, be enraptured by an immoral woman and embraced in the arms of a seductress?" Ooh, enraptured by an immoral woman and embraced in the arms of a seductress. It's not going to end It's not going to end well. That scenario. Here's what I love the most. For the ways of a man are before the eyes of the Lord, and he ponders his path. You know, I've made some mistakes in my life, and I've made some mistakes, you know, in my singleness, and God knows my heart. Though I had questions, I lacked understanding. But I know now. You know, and he says here in verse 23, he shall die for a lack of instruction, and in the greatness of his folly he shall go astray. You know, I sit here as this chapter, you know, conclude this chapter about the adultery and just the faithfulness of a man to God and a faithfulness to a man and his spouse, and the woman to embrace. You know, when you find that woman, to hold on to her. When you find that spouse, hold on to them and pour into them and continue to pray over them and pray with them and love them spiritually and physically, mentally and emotionally. Do not pursue finances, pursue the Lord together and alone. Fast alone and then come together, be with each other, and then go back and fast again. Do not deny each other the fruits and the benefits of marriage. I'm going to stop right there, brothers and sisters. Just a lot for me to chew on this morning. You know, God keeps asking me, David, what do you want in life? And I'm like, I want wisdom. He's like, besides wisdom, what do you want? And I'm like, you know what I want. And I don't want to answer wrong. You know what I'm saying? He's like, all right. Because the worst thing God can do is give you exactly what you want. The worst thing God can do is give you exactly what you want. So when God asks you, what do you want? I say, Father, I want wisdom. And he's like, well, besides that, what do you want? And I broke down this morning and I just had so many different answers. But in the end, I was like, Father, I just want what you want for me. That's what I want. If I can't have wisdom, then I want only what you want for me. Brothers and sisters, much love to you all. Peace be with you. May the joy of the Lord be your strength. Remember, choose wisdom over the world. God bless.